So today we're going to make a sub-irrigated planter out of this Home Depot 27-gallon tote. We're going to start by drilling a bunch of holes in the top here. We're going to cut the trim. We're going to trim the top off, and then we'll add some spacers and drill a couple other holes elsewhere. All right, so right now we're going to take this 3/16 drill bit and we're just going to drill a bunch of holes. We're going to start with 5 in each of these squares and probably 2 or 3 in between each one of these other smaller squares. All right, so I started drilling holes here. I'm not sure how I like it. I might want more, might want less. I'm not sure. Looks like my battery's dying. I'm not going to bore you guys with having to watch me do all of them. All right, so now that you've got all your holes drilled and the whole top, you're going to want to brush it, make sure there's no microplastics in there. Take it off, dump them all in there, dump them all into the bottom. Again, check for microplastics, little burrs from the plastic that are on here. Just kind of move them all off. That's not really going to hurt anything, but if you can clear them off, it'll be better. And then all these little pieces of plastic, you want to make sure that you get them all out of there, because you don't need that creating microplastics in your water, in your reservoir, or getting in with your plant, because it can affect it. At least from what I've heard. All right, so our next step is we're gonna come in with a brand new razor blade. I highly recommend a brand new blade, because otherwise it'd be a lot harder to cut. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in and we're gonna cut right along here to where this is flush, right at this level. Just bring it in flush here, and we'll come around this way and bring it across flush again, and all the way around the whole tub. What we want is we want to be able to keep this outer ring to help support the tub for when this is cut down and pushed in. It'll help support the actual frame of the tub. All right, and so for a visual reference, what we're going to do is we're going to come in right along here. We're going to cut right here, and we're going to bring it straight out this way. We'll cut right along here, so it's nice and flush. Now, we're going to come back in again, and we're also going to have to trim all of this here, along here, to be able to make this lid fit down into the tub. And I'll explain that a little bit later. All right, so we're going to take our fresh blade, come in, cut right along. Score it a little bit. This is why you need a fresh blade, because otherwise it's kind of hard to push. There's these little guys here, you gotta cut around those. So, I'm gonna come in, right by our mark. You can go through and mark the whole thing if you want to. I probably won't. Be careful when you're cutting these so you don't cut yourself and This is a very sharp blade. It's going to cut the plastic. It'll cut you. All right, when you guys come to cutting across here, this is on the bottom side of the lid here. When it comes to cutting around these things, I found that if you just cut right up along here, just go right up against there, you can easily take it off, but we're gonna have to come back in and cut these off completely after we have the whole lid cut out. All right, so I found that when cutting these, it's easiest to come in and cut this here off of that, so then you can come in on this side, find your line, and cut just go right along. Just be easy, because you don't want to cut yourself. And just make sure you apply constant, even pressure when cutting. For those of you that it's easier to follow a line, I recommend drawing a line. There you go. And now this goes on there to help support the tub. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these flush cut wire cutters. We're going to cut off all of these little guys. Or you could use your knife if you'd rather. You just need them flush. Or if you have bigger wire cutters, these make it a little bit easier. See? All we're trying to do is just flush them so that when we put the plastic for our cover crop, or for our soil cover, not cover crop, we can use that and it doesn't push down on the cover. All right, so next what we're going to do, we're going to take our two pieces. That one obviously stays on there. We can take it off if we need to, but this one's got to get trimmed to sit down in here. And right now, it don't fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to trim this about halfway on each one of these. And that should give us just enough clearance to get it to pop down in as far down as we need. All right, I know how some of you are more visual learners, so just coming in here about halfway, cut it down. I'll just try to cut it straight across. And just cut it down. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. Sometimes it's like butter. There it is. All right, so I took my lid and I shoved it in here. One thing I've noticed is here at the corners, it's kind of pulling back, pushing up. So I'm gonna come in and just kind of nip off a little bit of this. I might come in with a heat gun or some kind of torch to soften up this plastic. Push it over. All right, so I took the lid and I've pushed it down in here, and I have it sitting on these spacers that I cut. We'll go over those in a minute. But it's pushing up in the corners. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna trim this some more to clear these corners so this sits down without having any binding. And then I think I might come in with like a heat gun or a blowtorch, something to soften up the plastic. Push it over to the sides so that the soil can't just fall down in between all these gaps. All right, so I started eating these little guys up, these little tabs on the sides. They look like this. There was gonna be too much soil getting by there. So what I'm doing, I got this blowtorch with propane, and I just barely heat it up to where I can see the plastic get just barely shiny. And that's how I know it's just barely flexible enough. I can push it over and let it cool down. See, it's still sticky. That's how I know it's flexing. And it'll stay there. Now I won't have soil go past those. Now this part's not necessary. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. I didn't do it on my last one and it turned out fine. This one I just wanted to try something a little bit different. Because I also cut the lid a little bit different. On the last one I ended up cutting these halfway down here too, so these slots would have actually been covered. As you can see, everything I'm doing, it's not really hard, it's time consuming, a little bit tedious. Using a torch, you kind of have to know what you're doing, but it's really not that hard. I'm even doing it one-handed. Gotta know what to watch for. See the plastic get shiny, catch on fire a little bit. That's how you know it's too hot and it burns. Just pull it out. The shiny part's still really hot. I'm just gonna push it over there. Ow. There you go. And now that fits right in there. Put on top of our spacers, and there's only minimal little gaps, and that'll help, or that'll allow roots to get down in there. It'll allow less soil to get in there. All right, there we go. Okay, so pretty much the only thing that I haven't done on camera was make these spacers. I had to buy this. It came in a 20-foot stick. It's got two rows of holes, and then it's fairly thin, so I was actually able to cut it with the same knife that I've been cutting this plastic container with. But I took a hose clamp and I slid it on here, and then I scored a line with my razor blade, and then took the hose clamp off and just cut all the way around it. Once again, just a razor blade. Just takes a lot of pressure and practice and just patience, and you'll get some nice even cuts. These aren't perfect. They don't have to be perfect. They just need to be mostly flat. So next what we're gonna do, oh, I forgot to mention, these are exactly 4 inches tall, and this is a 4-inch tube. And that'll give us our 5 gallons of water reservoir at the bottom. So next I'm gonna take my drill bit and I'm gonna drill 4 holes all the way around it. 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I can zip tie them to the lid. And we also still have to cut holes in that. All right, so now we're gonna cut holes in our lid. I'm gonna cut one over here. I'm gonna cut one over here. That way we could pack these full of soil, and the soil will wick the water up into the rest of the body. And so what we're gonna do is I'm going to mark holes for these to where they're not quite the full diameter of this. We want to mark the inside of this here and then over here. And these are going to be placed 3, 2, and 3. And these will all get zip tied in place to make sure that they don't move around. All right, we got the holes cut out. So we're gonna take this one. We're gonna zip tie it. I'm gonna take this one. We're gonna zip tie it over that one. All right, so when zip tying this one on, you wanna make sure that it stays centered over that hole. Again, my hole is just barely smaller than the inside of that tube. And I have these 3 zip ties loose right now so that I can figure out where it's gonna be best. And it looks like I'm gonna use these 2 holes. So I'll take my zip tie through here and then I'll run it up. Through the bottom. Right there. And then stick it through, pull it tight, and then it'll be nice and even, and I'll cinch all these down to where it holds it centered. All right, now that I got those 2 zip tied on, nice and centered, they don't move because they're snug and zip tied. I'm gonna put all the rest of these on. I might just do 2 holes, I might do 3, just depending on how well the zip ties hold them stationary. But again, these are just to hold them so they don't slip around when you go to assemble and move it for whatever reason. But that way they don't just do this or fall over or whatnot. But these 2 are the main critical ones because soil is going to come through here and wick up the water. All right, so for these middle ones that don't have the hole cut out in them, I ended up putting I ended up drilling extra holes right here on each one of those. So the zip tie will pass through and you don't have to try to stretch it out real far. That was just kind of an oversight on my end. So almost done. Here we go. All right, so now that we have all these zip tied on here, we need to do next is we need to drill our overflow tube, or our overflow hole in the side of this. So what I did with my last one is I took 5 gallons of water and I poured it in here. And at the top of that 5 gallons, I marked it best I could with like a pencil or something through the water. And then I drilled a hole right at the very tippy top. That way I knew that that was exactly centered on 5 gallons. I checked the old one and I measured it from the ground up is about 3 3/4 of an inch. So that's where I'm gonna drill a hole right in the center. And then I'm gonna take this little tube and we're gonna put it in there with a grommet. That way, when it overflows, it doesn't just trickle down the side of the box and get underneath it and then cause, mold, mildew, other pathogens that we don't want to collect. All right, so got the hole drilled, got the grommet in there, got the tube in there. It's only about a 2-inch long, 2.5-inch long piece of tube. You can use plastic or rubber, whatever size. It just needs to be enough to where the water can just drain out through it. Nothing crazy. Last thing we need to do is we need to put in our fill tube for the bottom. So we're gonna cut a hole in the bottom here so it can sit in the corner, and then we'll notch this out so it can sit tight into the corner here. And then fill it up with soil. All right, so I notched out the lid there, the base, I don't know what you want to call it. I notched out the support piece, and then this will go right down in there. And it'll sit there. Then I took a paint lid cap and cut it down with another razor blade. And so there's a fill cap That way bugs and whatnot don't get down in there as much. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take some soil. We're gonna pack it tight into these holes. Not like super, super hard, but pretty darn tight to where water will wick up into the rest of your soil. And then you just fill the rest of it with whatever growing medium, your living soil, I guess you're using. And yeah, and that'll be it. Then once you put your plants in here, you'll want to wait, I don't know, probably a week or two, maybe 3. You'll notice the root growth. The thing is you just want to make sure that you don't put water in the bottom until you know the roots are at least to here, to the plastic, and then that way they can grow through the plastic and actually get down into the water and drink. All right, that's it. Hope you guys have good luck making your own. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Peace out, y'all.